Welcome back to Financial Therapy. It's not just about the money. I'm personal financial planner, columnist, and financial therapist Rick Kahler. Research tells us that 90% of all financial decisions are made emotionally, not logically. For nearly 4 decades, I've been helping people make better money decisions. So what makes my financial worldview different from most financial experts? I blend the nuts and bolts of financial advice with the emotions that drive making them. Good money decisions are not just about the money. So let's get started with today's episode. Welcome back to another edition. And I have Deb Kaplan with me. And we wanted to talk about in this segment constructive conversations. And this is where Deb lives her life.
Talking all day long and having constructive conversations. Yeah.
With couples. And yeah, it's a big area. So Deb, why don't you kick us off on, I don't know, if you start with what a constructive conversation looks like, or you want to start with how an unconstructive.
Well, actually, that's a really good idea. What a typical unconstructive conversation involves.
Yeah.
When couples come into the office, and I'm sure it sounds just like this in your office in the capacity of financial planning, but when they come into my office and they sit down and I say, so where are we digging in? How can I help you? What's going on? And they'll start to, one of them will share what's going on and what their argument is about, or it inevitably is about the argument that they have relevant to the issue they want to talk about. And one partner starts discussing from their perspective what's going on. And they'll turn to their partner and say, maybe you want to share what's going on for you, or maybe you want to share with Deb what's happening. And that partner will start to talk about, and at times, contradict what the first partner just said. As in, yes, that's what they said, and this is why they're wrong. And this is really why we argue, or this is what it's about, and this is what I think, and they think that, but it's wrong. And now we're off to the races, which is really, really actually useful. I get to be a fly on the wall. And I get to see really what is happening. Where is this conflict? To our point that we wanted to include in the book, certainly about what is a constructive conversation. Neither partner in the unconstructive or in the conflict, it is safe to assume that those partners are not listening to each other. They're talking to defend. They're talking to defend their position. They're talking to deliberate, to negotiate, to convince, to pull the other person to their side, which does not work. You can't cajole someone, you can't manipulate somebody into convincing them that their perspective is wrong and that the person's perspective who's talking is right. And so the first step really in a constructive conversation is to listen, not defend, just listen and be compassionate.
How do I possibly do that when I am so triggered? I am so convinced. I mean, the reason we're here, Deb, is for you to fix my partner and help my partner show them that they're crazy.
I'm actually glad you brought that up, because that is what happens. Many couples come in with the belief that the therapist, the financial therapist, that Deb, I, whoever becomes the judge, jury, and executioner. Just bring them in by the ear and let them know why they're wrong. And that does
happens
not
with financial planning too.
Does it really?
Remember one couple where she said, we're here so you can fix his overspending, or we're here so he can understand we've got to take risks, or it's up to you. And man alive, it's
and
like,
what do you do? I can tell you what I do as a therapist, but what do you do when that happens?
Oh man. Sometimes I may say, well, you might have come to the wrong place because I'm not going to fix anybody. Or in some way, I want that other person to know. And well, I want them both to know, but especially the person who is the designated patient, the one that
The one who's identified,
get,
the one who's identified as the problem.
right. I want them to know I am here to listen to you and I'm not here to fix you. That I can't fix anybody. And this has got to come from change. And maybe you don't need to be fixed. Oh my God. Well, that will send the other partner into the stratosphere. So I don't know that I would do that in the most therapeutic way. I mean, what I'd try to do is listen to each partner, give them a chance to talk, understand a little bit more, and see if I can be a facilitator.
Yeah.
But not a fixer.
And I do the same thing from a perspective that I'm here to help you, the couple, work with each other, not on each other, and to help you both learn how to resolve your conflicts and to give you the skills to do that. I'm not here to fix it. And I'm on the side of collaboration, which means there's no one person who's at fault or one person who's to blame. You have each other's back. That is what you both are here to do. And it begins with, no matter how you feel, no matter how triggered you may be, one or both of you, that I'm going to invite you into this space to be curious about what your partner is saying.
Oh my God, how can I do that? They're the ones that need to be fixed. I've been curious. I know what the issues are.
Understood. For 5 seconds, suspend your perspective enough to be curious about what your partner has to say. Because even if you are right and they are wrong, wouldn't you want to know, and wouldn't you want your partner to know that you care enough about them, that you value what they have to say, and therefore you value listening?
I think part of what I hear you saying, and this is taught a lot in nonviolent communication and motivational interviewing, is that we've got to get curious about ourselves. Somehow I've got to get to the place where I step away from my partner is the problem. My partner needs to get fixed. And look at my reaction to when my partner does this or says this, and try to really look at myself. In some of these teachings, they say somebody has got to be the one who gets curious. Somebody's got to be the one that steps up.
Simply without that, there's just no collaboration. You just cannot communicate if at least one person doesn't become curious.
And oftentimes the class will ask, well, who would that be? I mean, and the answer often is, well, probably you, since you're the one taking this training.
That's actually a very good response.
It's like, oh no, can I quit now?
What I say to couples is you can each take turns, so it's not just one person doing the heavy lifting, but you both share the load.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. So the next part of this is to also then, after becoming curious, to separate the person from their behavior. Now, that's a tough one, because there are some actions, and certainly with infidelity, financial deception, there are some very tough conversations that would be impossible and not advisable to not see the person as their behavior. So in those circumstances, we certainly support the fact that there are boundaries and limitations to what is acceptable and tolerable. However, in the scheme of communication, that if the person who's doing the listening can see the partner who's doing the talking and themselves as I am not my belief and I'm not my behavior, and I can separate the two out, then I make I make space to listen to what the partner has to say.
So the way that I frame that is this is one of the beauties of IFS is starting to look at this behavior as a part of my partner.
Yeah.
It is not my partner.
Precisely.
It's a part. Just like it's a part
of them, you mean?
Yeah, a part of them. A part of them. And I think we introduce, and I think rather in almost a groundbreaking manner, that if we can do that, if we can start looking at the parts of another person, and having done IFS weekly in my 7th year now, it probably took me 5 years. My therapist would say, well, yeah, you ran into a part of them or you ran into a part. And I would not look at another person as I was talking to a part. This is them. Even though I'm baked or becoming baked in IFS. And I don't know if we say this in the book, but what I'll tell a person to do is try this with a person, which I don't know, maybe we've done this. It's like, Deb, I'm so angry at you. Blah, blah, blah. Versus, Deb, there's a part of me that is so angry with you. It just can start to diffuse things. And it gives that space of objectivity. And what it's saying is, oh, it's a part of you that's really angry with me, not all. There must then be a part that isn't.
Right. And we brought this up in a different segment where we talked about the cognitive biases, how we agreed or not, whether we want to include it or not. And the part of you that said, no, I don't see the value of it. And then the part of you that ultimately said, wait a second, I do think it's valuable, and how we talked about including that topic. But yes, to separate the person from their behavior and begin to get a sense of curiosity and compassion, it makes so much room and space for collaboration and not just defense, staking the claim, staking the flag in the ground and saying, nope, this is the position and this is where we're going and this is what we're going to do. And couples get in retirement because it's a very emotionally charged topic.
And to be able then to look at that part of you, that this is a part of me that has staked the flag. And I've identified one part of me like that. I call it hell no.
You named it. You named it.
Yeah. I work with a therapist who likes to name the parts. And so, yeah, I can now identify, okay, hell no's digging in. Mm-hmm. What's going on. And of course, there's exiles that are being protected. And it's helpful. It's helpful to me. It's helpful if I have a relationship or feel safe enough with my partner to say, yeah, the hell no part of me has just really come up.
Yeah. The awareness, and you made room for that you could be aware, and that self-awareness that now allows just enough of a shift, if you want to get neurobiologic about it, that our prefrontal cortex can now take over. It's no longer the amygdala and the reactivity, and that we are able to assign a break to the charge, to the energy and the gas of hell no. But instead, well, let me give this some thought. Let me listen. Let me see what's this person's about, or what is it that I'm reacting to? Because inevitably we have to change.
And I want to interject something else that's important, again, from an IFS lens. The hell no part of me, it's not going to be helpful for me to tell that part it's wrong, that I wish you'd get out of me. I don't want you to be a part anymore. a critical part of me just beating up on it. And I think there's some modes of therapy that, in so many words, would take that position. But we need to get rid of this part.
Clients come in and say it. Clients come in and say, when I work with addiction, clients who come in and I say, what would you like from our time together? And I want to get rid of this addiction. Yes. I want to get rid of this behavior. And literally those words. And I say, I could no sooner help you get rid of that than I could help you cut off a part of your body.
Yeah. And they go, oh, okay, what wacko have I hired?
Yeah. Like, why did I call you? Why are we here? What are you talking about? I don't, wait, what?
Yes. And so it's bringing curiosity and compassion to that part, to the hell no part that seems to be causing this disruption within my system, and getting to understand its story because it has a good intention, which is.
And I have a question. Is this the manager or is this a protector?
Well, a manager is a protector. There's two types of protectors, the manager and the firefighter. And the manager's trying to contain things. Let's set it up so we can manage this, orchestrate it, manipulate it. But eventually, the manager fails.
Because it's just not containable.
Because that vulnerable part is screaming, gets too big, too loud. The pain, everything comes gushing out. And that's when the firefighter protector steps in and says, okay, scorched earth, we're going to soothe. There's a good intention here. And this is kind of the addictive cycle.
Yeah.
We are going to soothe this vulnerable part that's in so much pain. And then there's a myriad of things that can be done to soothe that part. Alcohol, reading, disassociation,
pornography, compulsive sex, drugs.
Yes. I mean, money, spending.
Oh, yeah, that.
Yeah, let's come back to that.
That.
And then you wake up the next day and another part's like, what did you do? And the shame and the critical part. But anyway, those are the two types, the firefighters. And they don't care. Their focus is we're going to soothe this vulnerable part at all cost.
Mm-hmm. That's our job.
Yep.
Interesting. Very interesting. Great way to view a conversation between two partners in a coupleship, to build that sense of curiosity, awareness, compassion, and then a way to come together instead of arguing, defending for a position, joining together on a common outcome. And common means that I don't always get what I want and you don't always get what you want, but we work together as a team. And that's the whole point of collaboration. That's the whole point of coupleship being. It's how to resolve the conflict towards the intimacy. And intimacy isn't that I'm happy and you're happy. It's that we share, we learn, and we have each other.
Yes. And we're sharing the vulnerable parts with each other. Or here's what's happening for me. Mm-hmm. And as you said, awareness, like, okay, wow, I know where this comes from. And it's triggered again. And gives, I would think, a huge amount of information to my partner.
Yeah.
To be viewing it with, okay, got it. Got what's going on.
Right. How well I know my partner, and this is the part of them that I'm familiar with now.
And I think a little bit more shallow level, when we work with money scripts, it's so common when we take on, say, like a financial planning client and go through all the money scripts and stuff, and they identify their top 10, that down the road, they say, oh, my money script is talking. And they may not even know IFS and know that relationship, or they can identify in their partner. Oh, I hear your money script talking. Now that could be used in a very judgmental, shaming way.
Let's hope not, but yes, it could be.
And it could be used into, okay, I've heard the story. I've heard your story around that money script. I get it. I get why you are right now just super frightened about spending.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting?
And to give that compassion.
And it's really from a clinician's point of view, so rewarding. I really enjoy when couples are putting into practice and I see it replicated. They're integrating, they're really internalizing the work that they're coming in to do. And it's rewarding from a professional's perspective, but it's rewarding because I get that this therapy works, financial therapy works, and it's the awareness that I'm not wrong, that there's nothing shameful about seeing things differently and not weaponizing insight. Just because I'm wrong, I just didn't know, or wasn't curious, or I wasn't aware. And that doesn't make me a bad person. It just means that I learned something new.
Yeah. And so I'm kind of coming back to what you said originally, is understanding that the person is not their behavior. I'm not identified as an overspender. I have a part of me that overspends, but I am not inherently at the core of my soul an overspender. There's a part of me that's actually been wounded and is behind overspending. I'm not talking about spending. I'm talking about overspending.
I like that. Yeah. It's a great way to put it, summarize it.
Yeah. So I'm wondering a couple things is how do I start this? How do I start doing this work on my own, or do I need a therapist? Because I'm guessing that the couple that could just do this on their own without a mentor or some modeling or some mediation would be pretty aware, insightful, super mature people in their personal growth.
Yeah. I think one of the reasons you and I wanted to record these videos is to bring the book to life and to help animate what we talk about in the book, so that for the listener or the viewer. We went to such great lengths to elaborate what a couple can do for it to be self-led, as long as they follow the exercises and really dig in. And I always support getting help and asking for help and assistance, if that's a financial therapist, a financial planner, another professional, whoever can help bring a perspective from the outside. Because we get really stuck in our ways and we get blindsided, or not blindsided, really kind of channeled into a very narrow and rigid perspective.
We talk about one thing in this book, and it was also in Facilitating Financial Health in that book. It's called The Money Dialogue. And it's not quite as developed as the way I think we presented it in Coupleship Inc. And I
forgot all about that.
This is something that you can do on your own that could be very insightful. I had people who have done this that have just been blown away. And so it's interviewing that part of yourself that is the spender, say. And so coming from self, coming from authenticity, coming from that curious, compassionate person that you really are at your core, on your good days.
So sitting down and literally writing out the person self. So Rick would be the person and you're dialoguing with spending.
Yes. It's in a form of therapy, and I hope it's right, called Gestalt. It's the empty chair exercise. And actually, this is where Dick Short started in IFS. He'd have two chairs. Okay, ask your spender a question. Okay, great. Now switch, go over to that chair, respond from that part.
Very effective intervention.
Great. Come back over here, respond from self, and just have this interview. And sometimes what will happen is it won't always be the self doing the interviewing. The critic could come in and say, well, that's about the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And it might be helped to, well, you can do this with a therapist. You can do it on your own. But just to try and hang out and interview this part.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, actually. It's tremendous fun. And when one does it and walks away and comes back, if that critical part is coming out, they can see it because they now have, kind of gotten some, they've cleared the air. They come back and look at it and they go, oh, okay, I was becoming critical here when I started replying from that place. It's very fun because it's a way to have an enjoyable, non-critical, externalized dialogue. The narrative that's in here, the inside voice, becomes outside.
So, Deb, a part of me is going, well, this may not be fun for everybody.
Probably not.
I think you and I may have a jaded view as to what fun is.
I agree.
Because when you've done this stuff long enough, you can really, truly be curious. Like, this is going to be fun to explore this. But oftentimes when you first start doing this, it is very normal for a lot of emotion to come up.
And frustration, right?
Frustration, all sorts of stuff. And I teach this in my my class at Golden Gate University. I have them do this type of conversation, and many, many times I'll get feedback. This became so emotional. Mm-hmm. What do I do with these emotions? Well, what's been triggered is the exile.
That little, sometimes very young part.
Very young, wounded part. So the conversation can go many directions, but I'm just saying, if you decide to do this, you haven't done anything wrong. You've probably done a lot right. If emotion starts coming up with this.
Yeah, I really appreciate you saying that, because you're right. You and I have been at this a while, and we're prepared for and aware of what may come up, but certainly frustration, very much so, some buried pain, exiled pain, woundedness, trauma. And that if in those cases, the person dialoguing does experience some unsettling or distress, certainly never hesitate to reach out for help from a professional, by all means. It's also helpful to reach out to loved ones, trusted others, partner, sponsors, mentors, because that person will probably find that they are met with compassion and validation.
Absolutely. Well, Deb, we're going to have to leave this here. Another great conversation. And I look forward to when we do this again.
Same here. Thanks, Rick.
Thanks for joining me, Rick Kahler, for another episode of Financial Therapy. It's not just about the money. This is where I combine the nuts and bolts of financial advice with the emotions that drive making them. Remember, every financial behavior, whether it appears illogical to you or others, makes perfect sense when we understand the underlying beliefs, feelings, and thoughts. Sign up for my weekly blog at financialawakenings.com. I hope you'll join me again for our next episode.